Hey everyone, as we wrap up another week here at Shop Marketing Pros, I wanted to share what our theme of the week was here. We start off our weeks by kind of focusing on just an idea, and it usually comes from conversations among the staff or just something happening. So this week it was cultivating courage, this idea of how do you cultivate courage. So we started off by defining courage, and it's very difficult to talk about courage without talking about fear and what things that we're afraid of, because courage is literally defined by acting even though you are afraid, or strength in the face of fear or pain or something negative. So we broke this out over a couple of days, but you know it all kind of starts with identifying what it is that you're afraid of. What if you want to be courageous? What do you want to be courageous in? So do you want to not be afraid of sharks biting you in the ocean? That's a pretty easy one, and then identify what are you afraid of? The teeth, the teeth is what I'm afraid of. But in reality, everybody likes the idea of being courageous, but we have this idea in our head of people are born just like fearless. You guys remember the no fear things, the bumper stickers and all that kind of stuff? Well, in reality, that's a very rare. I mean, courage, like anything else, is a trait that you have to train, and you have to train little by little by little. So courage generally starts with baby steps, with making a plan for how to be courageous. So, for instance, a lot of people will love the idea of being able to do public speaking, right? But that's like, at least in America, one of the biggest fears is being afraid of public speaking. So, if you wanted to be courageous and get up on the stage, well, you don't just one day go and get up on the stage and you're going to do magically. No, you do little tiny baby steps, like start with speaking up in a meeting, or doing improv, or get joining a Toastmasters group, or whatever it is. Like you have to. It's too daunting to do these things without first taking baby steps and acknowledging what it is you're afraid of. So the other part of it is getting really comfortable with failure. And in researching this topic, I saw that in Finland they have a national failure day. So we've got this stigma around failure that with, like, you don't want to fail. Like, the worst thing you can do is fail. But in reality, if you read any sort of business books or whatever, failure is your friend. Like, no progress comes without failure. And so getting comfortable with that. And in Finland on October 13th, by the way, coming up soon, it's a day of where you share your failures. You talk about it and what you learn from it. I mean, that's growth just happens from trying and failing. Thomas Edison famously says, I just figured out 100 ways that it didn't work, so that he could figure out, or I think he says 10,000. I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. So all the great people, like, they're going to fail. They accept that they're going to fail. You're not going to come out the gate and get it right all the way. And I shared with the staff, we had a lot of stories of failure and stuff like that. But for us as a company, we're born out of, Brian and Kim, you ask them, they will talk about their shop and how they, one of their shops didn't make it because not only of a road construction project, but not understanding, not having the business knowledge to survive. And it kind of inspired them. Had Brian and Kim given up then, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So failure, but the courage to go on even though failing. It's really, really powerful. And then we kind of rounded it all out by talking about getting out of your comfort zone. So another, citing Brian and Kim again, one of their sayings we talk about a lot in our company is people do best when they're operating just outside their comfort zone. It's very easy to stay safe. We all naturally desire safety and comfort, but if you're trying to be courageous, you got that fear thing, you're not going to be comfortable. So being comfortable, being uncomfortable, that whole thing, pushing yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone is what high performers do on purpose. So Ellen, I don't remember the quote exactly from Eleanor Roosevelt, but she talks about, like, if you live a safe life, you get to the end of life and you say, well, nothing happened. Like, no one wants that. Everybody wants an interesting life. I told this story to the staff of how I went to Timbuktu. I get made fun of a lot in this because I've traveled a lot. I really enjoy to travel, but I've literally been to Timbuktu, which sounds cool to say, right? But what makes that story even more interesting? The fact that I went to Timbuktu is neat, but on the way to Timbuktu, I had to take malaria medication and I got really, really sick. Those malaria medications, if you've ever taken them, they've got all sorts of crazy side effects. Well, I took it at the wrong time. I went to sleep and it burned a hole in my esophagus. And I couldn't eat or drink water or anything for days. So I was really weak. In Africa, where they speak French, I don't speak French, is dangerous, all this kind of stuff. So the danger and the fear and the adversity is what now when I tell that story, I was like, let me tell you about what I survived to get to Timbuktu. It makes it a lot more interesting of a story. And that's life, right? Our failures, the things that are difficult, the adversity in it, you have to cultivate a mindset of welcoming. You don't necessarily want to try and fail. We obviously want to be successful, but it's just part of it. So being courageous means acknowledging all of that, coming up with a plan, and changing also the self-talk, saying, I want to do this, and it's okay if I don't do well. So all this is what we talked about this week. I hope, if you're taking messages to your team or even for yourself, getting comfortable with failure, being outside of comfort zone, and just being cool with yourself and not being so hard on ourselves about failing, and go to Finland and hang out and celebrate National Failure Day. When October 13th comes around, I can guarantee you in our company, I want to make an announcement and we'll share some failure stories and celebrate them. All right. Hope you guys have a great day, weekend, and week.